faithful patient. We love her. I'm so happy whenever she's in the office. But I'm going to ask her a couple of questions. So number one, what was your motivation for taking care of your health?
What brought me to Dr. Mindy was actually I had some tingling in a leg, and I had a friend who knew Dr. Mindy, and she also had a friend that I had talked to her about that had just recently died of cancer. She said, you need to go see Dr. Mindy. She knew my cancer diagnosis. So what brought me in was a tingling in my leg, and from there I just, it was like a Christmas present that was given to me because I have learned so much, and my health has just turned around. My main motivation after I got here was not so much, well, the main thing that I learned here was the nutrition, the toxic, the everything, all the 5 essentials. And my main motivation right now is to stay cancer-free. I went through a year of regular cancer treatment, surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. It took a whole year, and I never want to ever do that again. What kind of cancer? It was breast cancer, stage 3. Do you want me to keep going, or you want to answer questions? Because I think my questions are going to go into my answers.
I have a question. How many years cancer-free are you?
Yes. 11.
So how many talks have you been to in your 2 years here?
Probably around 20, because she has them every month, and I missed a few because I've been out of town, but I try to come to every single one if I can, because even if I've heard it before, it's just reminding me of things that I might have forgotten along the way.
How much did you learn about cancer prevention from your medical doctor?
Well, when I went and was diagnosed, one of the first things I asked my oncologist was, okay, what should I be eating or doing to make this an easier process and to help my body heal itself, or to help, the chemo and the radiation and everything. And what she said was, eat whatever you want because you need the calories to get through the treatment. So, I mean, yes, exactly. I had no idea. I had actually looked, I got a few books. I got some books from Cancer Society that were, eating through chemo and stuff like that. But still, when I look back at those, it's nothing like what Dr. Mindy tells you to do.
So what have you learned from your time here? How much did you learn being here about cancer prevention?
Oh, I've just, learned so much. I have changed. There is so much. You have to take little steps at a time because I'm still trying to make sure I'm doing everything. But to keep moving forward, even if I make a mistake, okay, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So the next time, you do it the right way. And, changing the oils. Mainly, I think I'm really pretty good at the nutrition stuff. And I know the toxic stuff is what I need to really concentrate on now, because if I can just keep my nutrition going, I'll do good. As soon as I got here 2 years ago, I did the 30-day challenge, lost 10 pounds in that 30 days and continued that, and then 3 months later I had 35 pounds less. It wasn't mainly for weight loss, that's kind of a bonus. But I just want to be around for my family, my grandkids. I want to, feel good, be able to do things, and not have to go through all that cancer stuff again, which I would probably do differently this time if that happened.
Awesome. So, thank you very much for sharing. So with that, here's Dr. Mindy.
Thank you, Dan. I super appreciate this. Okay, before we get started, I just want everybody to stand up. You know what, it's going to say keep standing. Hold on. I got to get air or you're all going to fall asleep on me. Okay, now sit down if you or a loved one has been personally affected or impacted by cancer. Sit down. That means like you can think of somebody in your circle that has had cancer. Okay. No, you're still standing.
I'm thinking blood relatives. relative, but I know people.
Well,
I mean,
like in your circle of people that you interact with. Wow.
there you go.
Wow. Okay. Well, so my next question was going to be the people who know somebody or has been impacted by heart disease. But I mean, just look around. Every single person sat down, and it blows my mind. It literally blows my mind that we have oncologists that are saying just eat whatever the heck you want to eat when we know for scientific fact that a cancer cell has 15 times more receptor sites for sugar than anything else. I have a friend who just was in a hospital having a really traumatic surgery, and she took a picture of the food that they were serving her to heal, and there wasn't one real thing on the tray. She took a picture, and she's like, "Can you believe they're suggesting that I eat this?" So the thing about cancer, and this is why I bring it up, because we can't toxins and cancer go hand in hand. The thing about cancer is that 1 out of 2 men are going to get cancer. So that means I'd go every other man in here and just go, not you, you, not you, you. Like it's 50%, and 1 out of 3 women are going to get it. So when people are shocked that they get cancer, my mind just is so baffled why not every educator, why not every nutrition, why not every doctor is out there showing us the hard facts. And when you look at the hard facts, 95% of all cancers are lifestyle or environmental. 95%. So that means you control it. You get to decide. And that goes for everything. That goes for how you feel. That goes for heart disease. That goes for diabetes. That goes for everything. There's something called epigenetics, where they are now proving, multiple scientists, that show our lifestyle either turns on genes or it turns off genes. So the first step that I just want to applaud you guys, because the fact that you're here on a Thursday night when you could have been in a lot of places tells me that you don't want to be in this category. That you're like, enough is enough, I don't want to be over here, I want to be in the 95%. The challenge we have is like what Leanne said, like how do you even know where to start? And how do you know what to do? And that's what I'm trying to do tonight, is I want you to understand why toxins are important, and then I want to give you step by step by step ideas on how you can implement it. And I always say this, that health is like a language. And you have to learn not only how to speak it, but you got to hang around people that are speaking it. You got to put yourself in a culture of people that are speaking it. And I decided the other day that I actually think it's even harder than learning a language, because you have to unlearn one language and then relearn a new language. So I love many things you said, but she keeps coming to the workshop. So how many people have been to more than one workshop of mine? Awesome. So just so you know, I look at the list of everybody who's coming ahead of time. And those of you that I'm working with personally, I know what you need to hear. I know the information you need to have. And I always bring new information in. So tonight, a lot of you are going to hear things that you never heard before. So, and if you're not a patient of mine, we'll show you there's a path. You know, this is crisis care. This is people just avoiding their health until there's a problem. And this is proactive care, where you're actually doing something on a day-to-day basis to not build cancer. Just by a show of hands, how many people wake up in the morning and they're think about, am I going to build myself a healthy body today, or am I going to just keep having a sick body? Who puts his health is on their forefront of their mind every day? Okay, awesome, cool. So I'm going to start by telling my story, because I don't do it enough. If you've read my book, The Reset Factor, I wrote it in there. Just so you know, the book took me about a year to write. I started last year at this time. I took about 8 weekends where I kicked my family out of the house, and I went from Friday afternoon all the way to Sunday night. I came in here Saturday morning to see people, and I just sat at the computer and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And if you know me, I literally hate to sit. Like that was like, I would like get up and scream and jump up and down, but my own personal story took me one whole weekend, because I just couldn't put words to what I had experienced. So I will tell you in a nutshell where I've been in my own personal journey, and I think the most simple way to explain it is at 19 years old, I was addicted to painkillers. And I don't think I fully realized that till I look back and see, but I was a competitive tennis player, and I was on a tennis scholarship. I had shin splints that were really bad. Tennis is a sport that you're on your toes all the time. And I went into the trainer, and I said, I've got shin splints. And she said, oh, we have the solution for that. And she handed me a bag of ibuprofen. And she said, when you run out, come back. So I started taking 1 a day, 2 a day. After about 4 months, I was up to around 10 to 15 a day. And it's interesting because at the time I read something about some of the professional sports stars and how they were saying their guts were all in bad shape because they were taking so much ibuprofen. And I remember just thinking about that, but I didn't care because I had to perform. So after several months of that, the pain wasn't getting better. So I walked into the trainer's office and I said, it's not working. And she said, oh, that's because you need Vicodin now. Right? I mean, how many people have had that? Where you walk into your medical doctor and they're like, oh, it's not working now. Now you need another drug. So I was 19. I didn't know. First time away from home. I had a coach down my throat to get back out on the tennis court. So I took Vicodin, and I was doing Vicodin anywhere from 1 to 5 a day.
Oh my God.
Yes, and I did that, and I did that for about 1.5 years, until my legs were hurting so bad. I would wake up at night, and they were like swollen. It felt like somebody was shooting me in the back of the calf. So I went back into the trainer, who said, okay, I'm going to call the surgeon. She called the surgeon in, and the surgeon said, yeah, you have compartment syndrome. Do you guys remember Mary Decker, the Olympic runner? She's the only other person I know that's had chronic compartment syndrome from running. And so they wheeled me into surgery. To this day, I have 4 scars on my legs, really long scars, about this long. They did what they call a fasciotomy. They wrapped me up. I was on 2 crutches for about 3 months. Their attitude was, you'll be fine, no problem. I was now on Percocet 2 to 4 a day for another 3 months. And I went home for Christmas break, and my mom said, she looked at me and she was like, something's not right. And about 3 days into my Christmas break, I literally could not get out of bed. And she was like, something's not right. I think you've got chronic fatigue. So she, this is before the internet. She had to scurry through maybe the yellow pages, I don't know, tried to call some friends, but she found the top chronic fatigue specialist in LA. That's where I grew up. And we drove an hour. In LA, you drive an hour to anything. So we drove an hour to this guy. And we walked in, and he had a white coat on and a big mahogany desk. And he sat behind it. He didn't even get up and shake our hands. He was the top guy, right? So he sat behind it. My mom told the story to him, and he said, yep, you've got chronic fatigue. And she said, awesome, so what should we do? And I'll never forget it, he reached out of the drawer of his right side of his desk, and he pulled out a sheet of paper, and it had a list of about 12 different drugs with hash marks next to them for every time one of those drugs worked. And he said, well, here are all the drugs we know work for chronic fatigue, so we'll start with the first one, and if that doesn't work, then we'll go to the next one. And if that doesn't work, we'll go to the next one. If that doesn't work, we'll go to the next one. Right. And my mom I wish she was here tonight, because being the brilliant woman that she was, the other thing to know about my mom is she's barely 5 feet. She basically got up, she grabbed me, and she said, we are not toxifying this kid anymore. And we got back in the car, we drove another hour back to, at the time she had a homeopathic MD. And she drove me into his office, and whenever she walked in the door, they just made everybody go, move aside. So but now she had her mama bear on, right? So she had me, she walked in, she says, I need to see Dr. Luke. And Dr. Luke came over, and for an hour, he taught me everything I needed to know about nutrition, about toxins. He got me on a new supplement routine. I mean, literally, I never put another toxic thing in my mouth for like several months after that. Then we left his office, and we went to my chiropractor, who took x-rays and said, your spine is a hot mess. Your nervous system is so depleted, we got to repair your spine. And this was an all-day event, and then I ended up back home. The chronic fatigue guy said, you've got maybe 1 year, 2 years, drop out of college, maybe you'll do well. I kid you not, 3 weeks later, it was like the lights got turned on inside of me. And I started to wake up, I had energy. 6 weeks later, I was back out on the tennis court. I competed that season, and to this, knock on wood, to this day, I have never had that level of sickness again. So when we look at toxins, I know what it's like to live in a toxic body, and it does not feel good. And so as I go through the toxic 10 that we're going to go through today, understand that some of these we know are absolute breast cancer promoters, and some of them are just going to slowly rob you of health. And it's not going to be like immediate. It's going to be like over time. I mean, that's really what happened to me. It was like several years on pain medication and living in college, and you know, what do college students do? They drink beer and eat pizza and all the things that you guys have been with me now know that you're not supposed to do. And so over time, yeah, so I'm in that suffering spot with you if you're getting off beer and pizza. But we know that we have probably the biggest healthcare crisis that we have ever had in our country right now. And when you look at the statistics, every single condition is on the rise. So autism, 1 out of 45 people. ADD, 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10 people have asthma. 1 out of 10 people have allergies. 1 out of 4 people are going to get diabetes. 1 out of 3 people are obese. Depression, 1 out of 3. Cancer, 1 out of 2 and 1 out of 3. And dementia, almost 100% of our seniors right now are dying with Alzheimer's or dementia. So I do not believe when you've got the pharmaceuticals over there saying we haven't found the right drug. It can't be that. It has to be that the only thing that's changed over the last several years is toxins. And so I'm going to go through these 10. It's going to be a little overwhelming, but I'm going to have you write them down so that you don't get completely lost in your eyes. Every once in a while I'll see somebody's eyes kind of roll back in their head and they sort of wish they were home, you know, watching The Voice or something like that. I'm going to try to simplify it to you. And one of the biggest problems we have with health is nobody taught us what to do with this thing. Right? Like we needed a user's manual. Like, this is how you're supposed to use this thing. That's what I'm trying to give you guys in here as a user manual you should have gotten when you were first born. So there are 3 things that toxins do to your cell. I'm going to keep it simple. One is they block receptor sites. So when you take a toxin in, this is a toxin right here, it gets right in here and it blocks this receptor site. Estrogen mimickers are a great example of this. So it blocks the receptor site, and then all the estrogen is floating around in your body, making, what does extra estrogen do to us? That would be a positive. What is the negative of what estrogen does to us? Makes us a little crazy, right? Kind of makes, nobody's want to admit this, come on, a lot of women in this room. Makes us bend, it makes us a little crazy, a little teary, a little bit like wacko. It makes us gain weight. So because our bodies were born to bear children, this is for the women. And then the third thing is that breast cancer absolutely loves estrogen. So if you're blocking the receptor site, you've got all this estrogen floating around in your body, and it just, between that and sugar, you're just feeding on, the cancer can just feed on that. So we'll go through that, I'll explain that to you. The second thing that toxins do to our cells is they cause them to inflame. So a cell is a little bit like, it should be a little bit like a jellyfish. Like, it should just sort of have some breathability to it. And it has this little powerhouse spot right here called a mitochondria. And that's what gives us energy. And so the outside of this membrane should be breathable so that oxygen can come in and ATP can come out, which is what gives us energy. But when you are eating a lot of toxins, you make this outer ring very rigid. And so nothing can get in and toxins cannot get out. And so your poor little cells start to inflame. And what that means to you is several things. It can mean weight gain, it can mean fatigue, and it can mean pain. So when you have, like, the minute anybody comes into me and they say, I had right shoulder pain, and now it's in my left knee, And now my right big toe is hurting. Whenever I hear pain in multiple areas, I immediately think toxins, because the cells are not able to breathe, they're not able to get the waste out. And then the third thing that toxins do to our cells is they take a healthy cell and they turn it into a cancer cell. And I want to tell you a story that happened to me this week. It was probably one of the top 10 most proud moments of my parenting. My son bought National Geographic, and it's got the 100 mysteries revealed. Anybody do National Geographic? Okay, so he has it on the kitchen table, and I said, he said, I read through the whole thing. And I said, oh, really? He's 13. I said, well, what'd you learn? And he said, well, I learned that we can travel in time. We can time travel, which is a whole other discussion, and I'm still trying to, I had to go like, I said, really? We can travel in time? Like, after he left, I was like looking it up in the magazine. That's pretty darn cool. And then he said, you know, and he rambled off a couple other things, and he said, oh, and then we now know what makes cancer. And I said, and he goes, but I already knew that. And I was like, you know, I was doing the dishes, and I turned around, and I'm like, you already knew that? How did you, what causes a cell to become, a healthy cell to become a cancer cell? And he goes, well, toxins. So let me just put that next to a group of chiropractors I was with this weekend at a seminar, and one of the top chiropractors in our field died, and he died of cancer. And we're sitting with 6 of these doctors, and I didn't know the guy who died, and they say, oh, he had X, Y, and Z cancer. And I said, well, how did he get that? You know, he should know of anybody. He should know what to do. And all 5 of the chiropractors at the table looked at me and they said, well, how does anybody get cancer? Oh my God. I know, that's what I said. I like got up from the table and I was just like, oh my God. So if there's nothing you learned from me tonight, toxins make cancer. So if you want it, all cancer is a healthy cell that turned into a toxic cell. Or a healthy cell that interacted with a toxin and then it turns into a cancer cell. So as I go through the next 10, this is what it's going to feel like, okay? And some of you are going to be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Absolutely not. That is not true. I guarantee it. And some of you, and I'm going to want you to write these down, some of you are going to go home and try to bounce off the information off of some people. And let me tell you what that conversation looks like. You go and you're like, I just went to this amazing toxins lecture, and she said that toxins turn healthy cells into cancer cells. And the spouse at home is going to go, was she an oncologist? How does she know that? And you're going to say, no, she's a chiropractor. A chiropractor. Chiropractors fix backs and necks. What the heck does she know about cancer cells? And then you're going to be like, seed of doubt. And you're going to be like, that's true. What does she know about cancer? And you're going to start to question it, and then you're going to bounce it off a few more people. You get 2 or 3 people shut you down, and you're going to go right back to all your toxic living, and you're going to be like, yeah. So my number 1 rule for health is look around at the people that are succeeding at it and follow whatever they're doing. So like oncologists, like how many doctors are so unhealthy? It's crazy.
And still, when I go to my appointments and I say, okay, I'm doing this, you know, got rid of this and this and this and this, she goes, well, that's nice.
Right. Yeah.
If you think that's going to help, then that's fine.
It's crazy. It drives me crazy. It keeps me up at night. Okay, toxin number 1. You're going to write this on your first spot here. Is your household cleaners. How many people love a clean house? Okay, how many people love the smell of bleach and chlorine, and when you walk in and you're like, ah, it smells so clean in here. Okay, this is like a support group. Okay, so you're gonna put right here, you're gonna put household cleaner. Okay? And I'm going to run through these really fast because what I've done, because I don't want you guys to miss any information, is I typed this up. It's 13 pages long. It has every toxin in it, all the details you need to know, all the solutions, and we're going to email it to you tonight. So if you miss anything, and I got to keep working on this list because I ended up in a rabbit hole today trying to find the best stuff for you, but this is a really good start. So make sure we have your right email, and we'll email this to you tonight. Okay, so the first thing you have to know is that your household cleaners, when you inhale them, they are a neurotoxin. which means they will, the one other piece I guess I didn't really show you is that there's something called neurotransmitters. Oops. And neurotransmitters, I'm not much of an artist, so they basically connect our thoughts. So if you have a thought that runs through your head, it's like this is a neuron and this is a neuron, and these neurotransmitters are these chemicals right here that connect thoughts. So what toxins do is they block these neurotransmitters, and so that your thoughts are not always running through. I don't know what's beeping up here. Something's beeping. Oh, it's my computer. So they affect how you think. They can lead to depression. They can affect anxiety is another one. They can mess with your hormones. They also, what we know about household cleaners is that they can cause cancer. And this is not just me saying this. There is an amazing website and an amazing group that has our best interest in mind, and it's called the Environmental Working Group. How many people have been to the Environmental Working Group site? Okay, you're going to bookmark this on your computer. And they have something called the Hall of Shame in toxic household products. How many people have Simple Green? Nobody wants to admit it? I don't want to admit it. Okay, so Simple Green and then some dust polish and some furniture polish are pretty high up there on the list. Those are the worst ones. Banned overseas, anything that's banned overseas needs to be banned here. So you want to make sure. Seriously, like you want to make sure if it's banned overseas, then why the heck do we allow it here? A floor cleaner. Many of these are bleach oriented. So on your sheet, I wrote out all the chemicals, because if I went through the chemicals on each household cleaner, I think you'd probably be bored. So I just want you to know that there is a Hall of Shame. I would start by the first thing I would do is go home and make sure you don't have any of their Hall of Shame up there. Okay? The other thing that you can do, to me, household cleaners is one of the easiest to change. So there are a ton of natural solutions out there. Baking soda works incredibly well for a lot of different things. We put a recipe in here that you can use. When you're done, you can come. Chris will be back here. She's a doTERRA rep. How many people have tried doTERRA oils? It's pretty cool stuff. I have to say, when I first found out about doTERRA, I'm not a fan of miracle cures. I don't believe in miracle cures. So when the first person that ever exposed me to doTERRA said, you rub this on your palm and all your problems go away, and my first thought was absolutely not, the body doesn't work like that. But what I've learned in studying doTERRA a little bit more and using it on myself is that it's an amazing replacement for a lot of toxic stuff that we've got going on. And you can, Chris will teach you, there are some things you can do, some cleaners you can use that come from doTERRA that are fantastic. But go home tonight, you're going to pull up the EWG site, you're going to look at your toxic chemicals, and you're going to figure out what you need to pull out. I want to give you an example of what's happening with things like our detergent. So how many people use a natural laundry detergent? Okay, how many people use a natural dishwashing detergent? That's usually the hardest one. Okay, so dishwashing detergent is probably the worst one because it has these chemicals in it, many of which is plastic, and then it heats up in your dishwasher and it leaves a film on your plates and on your silverware, and then you put it in your mouth. You put your forks in your mouth, your food sits on there, so you don't see it, but there's a film of chemicals on there. So I strongly think anything you're cooking with your dishes needs to be the first thing to change. Countertops would probably be second. But those toilet bowl cleaners, that make your toilet bowl look really great, when you flush it, that chemical comes right out. I mean, think about how many times you're flushing your toilet, and that just comes right out up into the neurotoxins in your brain. Okay, anybody depressed yet? I felt the energy of the room just go. So this is why we're going to show you step by step, because there's always a solution. There's always a solution. So your solution for toxins, when you want to know what household cleaner to go for, I want you going to this page. Because what a lot of you are going to do is you're going to go home and you're going to Google all this stuff and you're going to end up down a rabbit hole. So I want to give you really scientific things that I know. So environmental working group is on our side. You can put your chemical product in there and they will rate it and they will tell you, they don't have an app for this one yet, but they'll tell you what is potentially harmful in it. So that's like homework for you over the weekend. Okay, toxin number 2, your furniture and carpet. I know everybody, look at this was cool. You guys got depressed fast. Okay, so I found this. There's an incredible website that I discovered called Mind the Store. And they are trying to educate people on their carpet and on their furniture. I love this quote. This is an ad that they had. 85% of couches contain chemicals that are linked to cancer, neurologic, and reproductive harm. And then up here it says, I'm looking for comfort, not cancer. So on your sheet, I've given you some links. Now, if you have furniture already, which most of you do, I don't want y'all like hauling your furniture out. But if you're going to buy new furniture, look and see and start to investigate what kind of gases they put off. Have they done any of their due diligence? We bought a couch last summer from Costco, and it sat out on our patio for, it was no rain, it sat out on our patio for about 3 days. And I just let it gas itself out. And then I brought it in. And you could still smell it once it came in, but I thought that's how I can minimize the impact. One of the things that we know about the chemicals that are in furniture is that they cause cancer, asthma, leukemia. From all the research that as I was going through this and all the experts that we're looking at in cancer, they're showing that some of the reasons that they're seeing leukemia, the increase, kids right now, the cancer rate for kids is through the roof. Like, how the heck does that happen? Like, I don't remember any kids when we were little that had cancer. And leukemia rates are getting higher and higher and higher. Well, there's the chemicals in furniture is one of the things that they're linking to leukemia. Parkinson's, also on the rise. They're saying that some of the chemicals in furniture is affecting the brain and linking to Parkinson's. So, the other thing that most people don't realize is like your laptop. So anything new, any furniture you get that's new, or any appliance, you want to try to, when it comes out of the box, leave it outside for a little bit. Laptops, you want to open them up, and if you have a secure backyard, nobody's going to take it, put it in the backyard and just let that gas come out for a little bit. Because every single one of these, I picked these 3 mattresses, flooring, and laptops, electronics, because that's where I found the most research. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I really love this one, Mind the Store. I found it, and I think it's a phenomenal website where you can go and learn more about it. Anybody going to remodel their house in the next year? Okay, so if I was remodeling my house right now, I would do some due diligence on like what exactly you should use. So like cork flooring is considered really great. So cork flooring as opposed to like a laminate is considered better. So there's some really easy like lateral changes you can make there. The other thing I want you to do with this information is when you get to that place where you're like, I don't understand why I'm not feeling well, I don't understand how my body got to this point, I want you to realize that it's not your fault. It's not one monumentous event that happened. It's over time, the toxins have been spilling into your body. And that's why when you start working with me, I'm really big on detoxing all of that and getting that out of you. Okay, let's go back to the top, to the household cleaners. I want you to grade yourself on each one of these. So if you feel like your household cleaners are under control, you've looked at most of them, they feel like they're pretty healthy, you're going to give yourself an A. Okay? If you're like, I'm like, my mouth is on the floor, I didn't even know that this was an issue, you're going to give yourself an F. And if you're like, I kind of knew, but I just didn't really want to make a change, that would be like a C. Okay? So we're going to grade, I want you to grade yourself. I'll put the air on a little bit more. Okay, same thing for furniture and carpet. I want you to, if you know that pretty much that the things in your house you've never even thought about the fact that there would be chemicals in them, you give yourself an F. If I have a friend who just remodeled a beautiful home and everything in it was just environmentally to the T. So if you've already made some changes, I think it's very rare that most people have done it a lot, but if you've already made some changes, you're like an A or a B. But why I'm grading you this way, if anybody's having like flashbacks to school right now and they're like, I don't want to be graded, it's because I want you to go home and this is your worksheet. This is what you got to work off of, so that you understand that you can be over here in the 95%. The reason so many people aren't over here in the 95% preventing stuff is because it's a lot of work. But we're trying to simplify it for you. Okay, so air quality. So this one's super easy to me. So the first thing you have to realize is how many people are inside all day? Yeah, I am too. The other day I realized that like Mondays we're in here 12 hours and I go out to get to lunch and come back, and so I'm inside all day too. So air conditioning has a chemical in it that's circulating. Everything coming off your floors and your furniture. So in your home, all these gases are coming up. Xylene, we've been doing biomarker tests on people, which is a urine test where we test toxic exposure and if their livers are overloaded. And I've run about 150 tests, and I've had recently 4 people show up with xylene exposure. Xylene is a toxic chemical on paints, and it's on mattresses, and it's on flooring. We're also finding that it's on fingernails. It's on nail polish remover.
On chlorine, you said?
Xylene, X-Y-L-E-N-E. So there's a great site. I'm not going to read you all of these, but there's a great site that NASA actually put out, and you can find it on Pinterest. Yes. because Amy there taught me about Pinterest, and so I am starting to learn about Pinterest, and I found this really cool thing about NASA and how they are now showing they're measuring the air quality. So you can go and look up all the chemicals in our air in our home. And here's the thing to know, if you don't believe me, the chemicals in your home are like 9 to 10 times more toxic than any other chemical that's out there. It's crazy. So NASA has put all the different chemicals that you'll find in your home. But here's what they did that's really cool, is that they have all the plants that you can put in your home that will hook on to these toxins. So the solution for air quality in your home is plants. So you're going to see more plants in here. I definitely need to get more plants at my home. The other solution, and this will be, I put a link to this picture on the packet that you're going to get in your email. Or you can go to Pinterest and type in, what would you type in? You type in NASA household plants air quality?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and you can find it there. It's a whole infographic. It was really long. I had to cut it down. So this one's easy to me. You just grab a bunch of plants and put them in your house. These are the specific ones that they like, and start to grab. And then the other trick I would tell you is open your doors more. Get some air in and out. Just, if you, we have, I live in an older home. We don't have air conditioning, and there's about 3 weeks out of the year that I'm like, okay, we need air conditioning. This is horrible. Like, I'm sweating. But I've made a conscious effort to not put it in because it's such a luxury and so easy to turn on those hot days. And I'd rather have some fans because the rest of the time, I don't want to use it as a crutch. I don't want the chemicals in air conditioning coming through my house. So I just try to open everything up as much as possible. Some of the things about toxins are a little inconvenient, just so you're aware of that. I know everybody's like, now you're taking away my air conditioning? Okay, so NASA's going to help you with that one. Okay, rate yourself on indoor air.
What about HEPA-grade air filters? That's what we
Those
have
are
in our
great.
house.
Those are great. I don't know which one to recommend, but HEPA-grade air filters are great too to pull some of the toxins out of the air. Yeah, I think it's a good one. You have a whole house one.
Whole house.
Yeah.
And it's hyperallergenic, is better than hospitals, or at least as good.
Yeah, great. Awesome. What brand is it?
It came from Lennox.
Lennox. So it's a HEPA filter, and it goes on your air duct
When you
system.
get the air conditioner heating, you can upgrade it to have a filter. That's what we did when we
Right.
upgraded our heater. We just did everything all at once. And
Awesome. Okay, so that would be a really good solution. Was it expensive?
It was about 12,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I mean, that's one of the issues you have is the things to change in your house are expensive. So that's why I like the plants.
But no
It's
allergies.
a little less
We did it
expensive.
for allergies.
Yeah,
And it's basically, if anyone has any allergies, your allergies go away. We can tell when our filter needs changing, and it's like, but my husband has extreme allergies.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like it. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so rate yourself on air quality. If you are in air conditioned most of your life, I mean, really look at it. For me recently, I just have been inside so much between working in here. I was at a seminar last weekend where I was in a hotel for 3 days. So I've literally like forced myself outside even in the rain. It's like a conscious decision. Like I gotta get out, I gotta walk, I gotta do whatever I can do outside because being inside 20 hours a day is not good for you. So, okay, what toxin number are we on? Toxin number 4, your cookware. I'm starting with the ones in your home, by the way. Okay, how many people have already heard that their cookware is toxic?
I've replaced it all.
Okay, good. You guys already have a pretty good thing on this. So I'll tell you which one's good and which one's bad. But what the cookware, the chemicals that are in the cookware, the problem we have is you're heating it up, and so it's fumes. And again, you can't see it, so it's fumes that get heated up. And the studies that I found is they're linking it to Alzheimer's. Again, I got to go back to why do we have every senior 1 out of 1 with dementia and Alzheimer's? So it's not like the cookware was the #1 problem. It was just that it contributed to the toxic load. So Alzheimer's, headaches, Parkinson's, and I found several studies showing that it contributes to osteoporosis. So the 2 cookwares that are the absolute worst are Teflon and aluminum. I know. Don't you love your Teflon pan? No, you don't? How many people have Teflon? So I have one that I absolutely love, and about 5 years ago, I literally took it to the trash can like shaking. And it was really sad. So I understand if you have Teflon and you're sad. Aluminum, Teflon is linked to asthma. It's linked to a lot of depression and anxiety. And you don't tend to think of it as like, well, how can Teflon cause anxiety or depression? But it's the continual use. When you heat it up, it just gets up into your nose and goes right up into your head.
It's become so pervasive that it's in the oceans, and they're finding it in polar bear fat.
Yeah.
So the polar bears are eating the fish, and it's getting into their bodies.
Yeah.
Teflon.
It's crazy. So I heard a story the other day that there was a woman who wanted to test her breast milk and see what chemicals were in her breast milk, and she found out jet fuel was in her breast milk. Yeah. And so then she tested her daughter, who also had jet fuel, and they tested her in her urine, also had jet fuel in her urine. So where do you get jet fuel from is just falling out of the air. And I mean, so if you're getting stuff falling out of the air, you're definitely getting stuff that you're heating up in your house and cooking. So it's really sad. Aluminum, if you have not heard, aluminum has been linked to Alzheimer's. It is not the main contributor. I have had so many debates with people who have loved ones that have Alzheimer's and tell me there is not a direct correlation, but it is a contributing factor. Aluminum is in everything. It's in our deodorants. It's in our flu shots. It's in many of our shots, many of our medications. There's a study done showing that somebody who's had 5 consecutive flu shots every year you get a flu shot, you increase your amount of chances of getting Alzheimer's by 10 times the normal amount.
And then,
Yeah.
they tell the elderly to get their flu
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's crazy. But I was at Kaiser, and I actually said I didn't want Thermosol. I was not good with it, and they actually had an alternative without Thermosol. And
Yeah, that's great, because I did that with our pediatrician on vaccines. I asked my pediatrician if he would remove the thimerosal, and he said, no, can't. But there are some pediatricians out there that will remove them for vaccines. Yeah.
Half will only
It's crazy.
do non-thermosol.
Yeah, yeah. So, but understand again, it's bioaccumulation. So if you can get it out of your pans, that would be great. The 2 types that are great, the 2 types of pans are cast iron and stainless steel. How many people have a cast iron pan? Oh my God, I love my cast iron pan. I love it. I mean, it's like carrying it to the sink is really heavy, but that thing rocks. I think everybody should just get cast iron completely. It actually, getting iron in, it'll cook the iron into you, which is great, and give you some iron stores. So, so those are the two types for cookware. Okay, so rate your cookware. Give yourself an A if you've got it. If you own a cast iron, give yourself an A. If you still have Teflon, you get an F. If you're somewhere in the middle, you get a C. Okay, and our resource for this is Environmental Working Group. Okay? Okay, is everybody depressed yet? I think we all need to like yell something. I see the look on all of your faces. I absolutely love educating people, and I love when the lights get turned on and people go, oh my God, like I have control. And this particular topic doesn't seem to do that for people. It has a tendency to do, if you can see all your faces right now, which is a little bit like, oh, there's more? Like that's typically, whenever I do toxins, it's a tough topic to do, which is why I'm trying to simplify it for you. So, so our water, how many people know our water is in bad shape? Okay.
We're not in Flint.
What?
We're not in Flint.
We're not in Flint. That's good. That's true. So I found this on Pinterest as well. If I'm tired in the mornings, it's because you've taught me about Pinterest, and I'm up pinning things all night. So this is all the things that flow into our water. So nitrates, chemicals, fertilizers from planes, pesticides from planes, air pollution, smog, acid rain, chlorine, smoke, copper and lead pipes, leaking gas tanks, toxic waste, and the septic system is all getting into the water. They're finding your medications in the water, antibiotics are in the water. Our water is a hot mess. And buying bottled water is not the solution, unfortunately. So the two things that water damages the most is it's a hormone disruptor. So it affects what the receptor sites. So what do we think of when we think of, there's two things you should think of when you think of hormone disruptors. What's one?
Thyroid.
Well, yeah, that's thyroid. The canary, I call thyroid the canary in the coal mine. It's the one that absorbs all the toxins. But cancer, did somebody say cancer? So breast cancer, and what's the second thing you think of when you think of an endocrine disruptor? Estrogen, and too much estrogen does what?
Uterus.
It makes you wacky. Yeah,
Foggy.
Wacky, foggy, and it makes you gain weight. So what most people don't realize is that, this is that your weight can be holding on because you have too much exposure to these endocrine disruptors. And so the trick is not as complicated as you would appear to be. A whole house system is really the best, but it's expensive. And in all the research that I've done, the Brita filter is pretty darn good. So in the list that you guys are going to get, I've put a link to Brita, and I put all the chemicals that they pull out. If you go to their website, they'll show you everything they've pulled out. This thing costs $30 maybe? If you go onto Amazon, you get one on your, to me, this is the no-brainer. If you can do the whole house one, it's great because you're showering and all that stuff too. But this is a really easy solution. They even have them in bottles now that you can take on the go, and it has a filter in it. So that's water. If you are already aware you have a filter at home, you get an A. Any kind of filter, you get an A. If you have no filter, you get an F. Sorry, I'm going to be harsh on this one. Okay, next one is altered food. Okay, altered food. So I specifically call it altered food because what I want you to know is that there is food and then there is altered food. So altered food means that nature did not make it, man made it. And the things that we know right now, and love, love, love this quote, I swear I'm going to have it like tattooed on my arm, is that food can either be your greatest medicine or it can be your slowest poison. And it really, what you eat really everything makes a difference. So of all the things that I just said, if you already know your diet's bad, you got to start with your diet first. Because the problem is that you're eating so much all the time, you eat so often that your body just starts to, over time, it just is like putting fuel on the gasoline on a fire. Are you getting cold? Too cold? You guys okay? Okay. So you want to make sure that your quality of food is good. Now here's the sad part. 80% of U.S. packaged foods contain dangerous cancer-causing chemicals that are only allowed in the U.S. They're banned in every other country. 80% of packaged foods. So, where are packaged foods? Who's going to the grocery store tomorrow? Okay, so tomorrow when you walk in the grocery store, what I want you to do is you're going to either go right or you're going to go left. And you're not going to go forward. Because everything in that area in the middle is packaged food. If it doesn't need to be refrigerated, if it's not going to get rotten in the next little bit, it's packaged food. So literally, if you ever came to the store with me, what we do is we go around the outside, and then we come up to the register.
Stores are getting smart. They're starting to put packaged food
Oh,
on the
really?
outside because
Around the
they're
outside, yeah.
Just beware.
So the trick is to read labels, and if your label looks like this, then it's probably a man-made chemical. And I've gotten to the point where, because I usually am like rushed in the store, is I literally pick it up and I just go, I don't even read that, I see it and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of chemicals, and or a lot of ingredients, and I just put it back. So I like things that are like 3 and 4 ingredients. I think I've told some of you the story before. 2 summers ago, my nephew, who is 13, was in town, and he was kind of curious about food, and he was asking me some questions. And so he pulls out Trader Joe's pancakes, frozen pancakes, out of my parents' freezer. My mom was a health food nut growing up, totally trained us on how to eat right, and she's got these frozen pancakes for her grandkids. So he pulls them out, he looks at me, and he says, Aunt Mindy, is this good or not? And I said, I don't know, Jonah, why don't you read the ingredients to me? And so he starts, and the ingredients look like this. So he starts to read the ingredients. And he can't even get past the 3rd ingredient without, he's like having trouble not pronouncing it. So I said, now take those and go look them up on the computer and tell me what you find. Just take the first 5. And within the first 5, he found that there were cancer-causing chemicals, and they were damaging to the gut, and there was one other liver toxicity or something like that in the Trader Joe's pancakes. So you want to start reading an ingredient. If you don't feel like you have a good grip on nutrition, I think nutrition is so important that we're now doing once a month something called the Reset Dinner. And we are going to have it here. We cater food. We bring in good, healthy food, and we're going to teach you how to read labels. We're going to show you what to eat, what not to eat. It's a great place to bring your kids, like your teens, that you want to teach them what to do. I did this exercise with a group of kids that my daughter is doing a sport with, and I brought them into a room and I gave them, everybody got a package. Somebody got Doritos, somebody got a Coke, somebody got, some people got some healthy stuff, but it was all packaged food. And these kids were around the age of anywhere from 7 to 13. And I just asked them to read the labels. And I taught them how to look at sugar and how much sugar they should have and what they shouldn't have. And it was amazing what they learned. For starters, I went and I asked them, how come you guys don't read labels? And one of the older girls said, well, because I don't know how. And one of the girls got a Coke, and she was like, oh my God, I got a Coke, that's awesome. Like she thought, I was giving her the Coke. And she got the Coke, and I showed them how you're only supposed to have 25 grams of sugar max a day. That's American Heart Association says max 25 grams of sugar. And so I said, now tell me, I showed her the serving size, I showed her the sugar amount, and I said, okay, now how many grams of sugar in your Coke? And she said, oh, it's not bad, it's 30. And I was like, okay, now tell me how many serving sizes your Coke has. It had 4 serving sizes, 120 grams of sugar. And it was so cool because in that moment she went, ew, and she pushed it away. I was like, yes. So at the reset dinner, what we do is we teach you how to read labels. Bring your teens. I strongly feel kids and teens need to know this. It's an art, learning how to read a label. So it's a great place. Bring your family in general. It's a great place to start to learn on like the nutrition 101. But that label would be toxic. In my family, we just really steer towards the fresh food. So my kids do complain. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and yes, about every 2 days I hear, we don't have any food, I hate our food, blah, blah, blah. But I personally don't care, because what I'm doing is trying to teach them a skill that they're going to learn and have for later on down the road. So try to stick to fresh food. The other thing to know about your food is that it's being heavily sprayed. If you're not buying organic, it's being sprayed with pesticides, and it's being sprayed with herbicides that are cancer-causing. If you're not buying non-GMO, you're getting glyphosate, which is a horrible, horrible chemical that they allow in our food. So look at labels and really look at, you want non-GMO and you want USDA organic on almost everything. Costco is doing a great job right now of bringing some of this stuff in. So, I mean, literally, you can, once you get this down, you can read it really fast. You go in, I know I need to be around the outside. If there's a packaged food I want, I pick it up, I look at how many ingredients is it. If it's like 50, I don't even look at the ingredients, I put it back and I walk away, and then I look for these two symbols. And if I look at the ingredients, it's short, it has these two symbols, then I go, okay, do I want the food? Would my kids like it? Then I decide that. Where what most people do is they pick up the food and they go, oh my gosh, potato chips, I love potato chips. Which do I want? Do I want ranch or do I want barbecue? And you make a choice based off your taste buds. So what I want you to do is start making a choice off of what makes you healthy, because your taste buds will follow. So that's my requirement when I look at different food. The next reset dinner is Tuesday, March 29th. If you haven't been to any of our nutrition talks, and actually right now we're making it mandatory for all of our new patients, you need to be at this dinner. If you have friends and family that want to learn how to eat right, bring them here. I am on a mission to teach people how, and especially the kids, how to eat right, because it's not that hard. Okay, if you're doing nutrition right, if you feel good about your nutrition, and you feel like you got it, then give yourself an A. I'm just curious, how many people put A's in here? Because I've been working with a lot of you guys. Awesome. Okay, and then, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call anybody out. If you were like, again, this is the first time you're really hearing it, you haven't read a label, you're going to give yourself an F. So.
I hired a new mow and blow guy, and I told him no pesticides in my yard, and I found him out there with Roundup.
Oh,
and
God.
he said, well, it says on the bottle it's non-toxic.
Yeah.
Well, they do these studies, but it kills off our bacteria in our body.
Yeah.
And we're mostly bacteria.
Yeah, our labeling laws. So, I mean, not to talk politics right now because our political world is crazy, but I told my husband, I was like, I care about one issue right now. I only care about one issue, and none of the people are talking about it. And it's that. Why are they spraying Roundup on our food? Why are they allowing these chemicals in our food? Why are we not talking about this?
And we should all write our...
Yeah. I mean, that really is, and nobody has taken a stance. Everybody's waffling on it. GMO foods, you guys have heard me say this before, that they don't label it. There's no labeling.
Other countries do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. It's crazy. Again, these are things that make me wake up at night. Okay, plastics. So the next one is plastics. And, most of us have heard that, I hope, how many people have heard that plastics are linked to breast cancer? Okay, did anybody know the famous woman who had breast cancer that thought she got it from her plastic bottles?
Oh,
Sheryl Crow. Yeah. So Sheryl Crow claims that on the road all the time, plastic bottles is was one of the major causes of her breast cancer. So plastic bottles heated up in your car with water in it is disastrous. You're getting a bottle full of chemicals. So the plastics in our containers, putting saran wrap over your glass dish and putting it into the microwave leaches all those toxins out into your food. And your microwave, by the way, kills any nutrient. So classic of what I used to do, this was an old habit I had, was, oh, I'm going to have some broccoli. That's great for me. I put the broccoli in a glass bowl with water at the top, put saran wrap over the top, stick it in that microwave. I've killed all the enzymes, I've killed all the nutrients, and I've leached toxins into my broccoli. I'm dead serious. So you think you're doing something good, but you're not. It's very frustrating. So plastics are they're pretty up there with the food. I mean, they're really a big one to consider. So the other thing that we know about plastics is that it causes you to gain weight. So how many of you heard me say the agouti mice story? Okay, so not so many. Okay, so they did a study out of Duke University where they took 2 mice. And when they were born, they identified that these mice had the obesity gene, that there's actually a gene that can lead you to be more obese. And so they fed them the same diet, they put them on the treadmill for the same amount of time, and the only thing they did different between this mouse and this mouse is they fed this mouse BPA, which is in plastics. So they fed this mouse BPA, and all of a sudden it started to gain weight. It's blocking receptor sites. Leptin is one of the hormones that you need to burn fat. It blocks the receptor site of leptin. And so they did this over at Duke University. You can look the study up. They did it over and over again. The cool thing is that they were able to give this mouse, and you guys have heard me say this before, something called methylated cofactors, which is a special formulation of different B vitamins, basically. They gave this mouse B vitamins, and they took the toxins away, and it started to shrink. So it is reversible, but what it does mean, what they came out of the study, and they said, you know what, weight gain is not all about food. A lot of it is about your toxic load. And so plastics is a great place to start. There are numbers on the bottom of your plastic containers. How many people knew this? Okay, so the numbers you want to stay away from are 1, 3, and 6. Those are the ones that are the most cancer causing. So, and a really good rule of thumb is if it's soft, the softer plastic, you're going to get more bleaching. So we've moved completely to glass in my household, the glass bottles even. We have 2 active kids that can throw those things in their gym bags and they don't break, so it's a pretty easy transition. I really try to not reach for the plastic bottle at Safeway when you're in a pinch. Try to shy away from that. But even if you cut your plastics down in half, that would be huge. So, and know that they can have that impact on you. If you're trying to lose weight, you got to get it completely out. You got to really look for all sources and try to get it out. Okay, Breast Cancer Fund is a great place and a good resource for plastics. How many people know about the Breast Cancer Fund? Okay, so I'm a huge fan of the Breast Cancer Fund because it is one of the only cancer groups that is into prevention. So you may have heard that when you go and you walk for the Susan K. Coleman, there is very little money when you raise all that money and you go walk and you're like, I've watched them. One time it literally made me ballistic. They do a walk downtown here for breast cancer, and they walk right past there with the pink ribbons on and the name of the person that passed, and they're literally carrying plastic bottles of 7-Up while they're drinking. I'm like, why would sugar, plastics, we know those cause cancer. So when you go walking for those organizations, very few of them are putting it into why we're getting cancer. There is only one organization that cares why people are getting cancer, and it's this organization, Breast Cancer Fund. I am doing 6 days this year, you'll hear more about it, where I lower my new patient price, and I donate that to the Breast Cancer Fund. I am trying to raise, my hope is to get as high as $10,000 for the Breast Cancer Fund. I believe what they're doing is amazing. And they're the only ones. So they're a great resource. Go to their page, you'll learn a lot. Okay, rate yourself on plastics. Is that plastics? Yeah, plastics. Okay, give yourself an A if you understood it. Give yourself an F if you're like brand new information. See if you're kind of in the middle. Okay, this one is one that a lot of people don't know. It's very complicated. I almost didn't include it because it will end up down a rabbit hole, but I want you to be aware of it, and then you need to make a personal decision on it. So there are two topics about vaccines, or about, that really people get reactive about. One is vaccines, and one is your dental care. So I've spoken with a lot of dentists. I have several patients that work in the dental field, but there are three things that you have to make a personal decision on. The first one is your toothpaste. There's plastic in it. There's something called, anything that foams, there's something called sodium lauryl sulfate in it, and it's toxic. So if your shampoo foams, if it foams in your mouth, anything that foams has got this SLS in, and it's a neurotoxin. So you got to think of, I personally, again, this is a personal thing. I use the On Guard toothpaste from doTERRA. I absolutely love it. Once I switched over, I won't ever go back. Just so you understand, I'm a real person that has to deal with these real issues that you're dealing with. I was at the dentist this afternoon with both my kids. We were having a discussion, me, the dentist, the dental hygienist, and my son, about fluoride and toothpaste and what do we want to do. And they were recommending you should do fluoride, you should do fluoride, you should do Crest toothpaste, you should do Crest toothpaste. And for me, I just want to try everything I possibly can to not do that. So I'm just saying that these are decisions you're going to have to make. I know you guys who work in the dental field probably agree differently, wouldn't you? No. Okay. You would. Yeah. No. These guys are both dental hygienists. And what I know, yeah, and we'll talk about fluoride here in a second. So the other thing that we know about the mouth is mercury fillings. I've had so many people tell me the idea is that when you drink something hot, the mercury bleaches out and it goes up into the brain. This is one of the most toxic things that is happening in the mouth right now. This is, again, very controversial. I'm entering into controversial land right now. But go do some research on it. I'm not recommending you go pull all your mercury out. All I'm saying is that before the next time you have to have a mercury filling, really do some research on it. My daughter had to have her wisdom teeth pulled, and I just went and Googled and Googled and Googled anything I could find. Like, is there anything we know about wisdom teeth being pulled? Anything that we're not aware of? I do believe, and I'd be curious your guys' opinion, but I do believe that the dental world is a little bit stuck, and it hasn't really come up to speed with a lot of nutritional stuff. My dentist also agrees. The dentist I went to that pulled my daughter's wisdom teeth, he was super into nutrition. He was super into supplementation, which is why I liked him. So you have to look at this. But mercury fillings, they do know that when you drink something hot, it bleaches out. It leads to depression and anxiety. Mercury is one of the top toxins we have right now. On Guard by doTERRA. You can ask Chris right there. So, okay,
and different type of filling.
Yeah, it's porcelain, right? What's the
composite?
A composite.
So that's not an issue.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But the downside of it is it's not as strong.
No, it's twice as it's stronger. It's way stronger.
Yeah.
And it doesn't expand and contract like silver glass either.
Yeah. This is another subject I could really freak you all out on. So that's why I'm just making you aware of it. So, okay, and then I'm going to bring up fluoride just so you're aware of it. I'm wrestling with it in my son right now. I heard them today and about how it strengthens the tubules in the tooth. Like I wrestle with that, and I wrestle with the fact that maybe a little bit's okay. But I know we're getting it in our water too. And when my kids were little, I used to say it's okay to put on your teeth. It's just not okay to swallow. And now I just feel like we have too much fluoride going on. This is from a PhD, 34 years at the National Cancer Institute, and this is his quote. In a point of fact, fluoride causes more human cancer death and causes it faster than any other chemical.
What's his name?
His name is Dr. Dean Burke, B-U-R-K. So you need to at least be aware of it, and you need to make a personal decision for yourself. what you're going to do. But most people never think of their mouth as a potential source of toxins. And there is something interesting. Oh, here's the toothpaste I use. There is something emerging called biological dentistry. Have you guys heard of the IAOMT? No. Okay, so this you can go to their website. It's the IAOMT, IAOMT, and they have biological dentists that, and I haven't found one in this area yet, but when you walk in there, they are very familiar with everything I'm talking about. They're on the natural side. They understand about mercury. They understand about fluoride, and they're going to have a more natural slant. And there are some in the area because I've looked them up. I just wish I didn't like my dentist. So I'm trying to change his mind. So, okay, so if you didn't know about your toothpaste, then you're going to give yourself a grade. Okay, we're going to go to the next one, which is beauty products. I know. Okay, so here's what you need to know about your beauty products. For women right now, women have 515 chemicals on average that they're putting on their skin all day long. So many of these are endocrine disruptors that are causing hormonal imbalances. We all need to be looking at our beauty products. The other thing we know about beauty products is that it only takes 26 seconds for them to get into your bloodstream and start to do damage. It's quick. So the minute you put it on, goes in, starts to change the cells immediately. Harmful on the kidneys, harmful on the liver. This is an example, just shows you how it just hooks right onto that receptor site, and then you have all this estrogen floating around in your body. There is a really easy solution, and it's called Think Dirty, and it's an app. So you're going to pull your phone out, and you're going to find the little app or go to the App Store, and you're going to look up Think Dirty, and you're going to download it. There are two apps right now. One's called Skin Deep. I'm like, okay, Skin Deep and Think Dirty, and we've played with both of them. The Breast Cancer Fund supports Think Dirty, and I support anything the Breast Cancer Fund does. So, I've done some research. I feel like right now they're the most accurate. But you're going to scan all your stuff. So I'm in the process. This was a bit of a process here. So I'm in the process of trying to decipher one patient's full makeup list. Yeah, Antoinette. So Antoinette came to me and said, we started talking about her makeups, and she said, I don't know if you said it or I said it, but I said, send me everything you're taking. So these are all the stuff that she takes in a day, which is a lot, puts on her skin, and about a third of them rated a 9 on the Think Dirty. So, and when you rate a 9, they're carcinogenic. So I promised you I would go through it. I'd find you alternatives. Many of them on here are Mary Kay. So you need to go look at your products. You need to teach your kids about this. You've got to have some gauge to look at your beauty products. Lipstick is a big deal. How many people have trouble with natural deodorants? Nobody?
I do.
Okay. How many people do natural deodorant? Okay, so this is Carrie right there waving her hand. So you guys know one of my favorite places is the Campbell's Farmers Market every Sunday. And Carrie had a booth that was on the opposite side from the food, so I never even realized that you were there. And I realized it 2 Sundays ago. And I found her, and she has a natural deodorant, and she and her daughter were out there promoting it and selling it. And she said, you just apply it once. You don't have to keep reapplying. I didn't believe you. I thought for sure I was going to have to keep reapplying. But I've used it for 2 weeks now, and I have not had to reapply. It's awesome. So she's here. She's brought some deodorant that you can purchase from her. I've wasted so much money on deodorant. It is the best deodorant I have tried to date. So we want to help her company and make her company really huge so that it's just very easy for us all to get. It is hands down the only one that's ever worked. So you can talk to Carrie afterwards. Breast Cancer Fund and Campaign for Safe Cosmetics is a good resource for your beauty products. Okay, we're down to our last 2, so hang in there with me. The next toxin you've got to look at are your medications and your supplements. Okay, so medications, here's what you need to know about medications. Anybody ever taken a medication and pulled out that little white flimsy thing that is folded in here? Have you ever read it? Has anybody ever read it? Okay, so if you, this is in a flu shot. This is the picture of a flu shot, and it creates blood and lymphatic disorders, eye disorders, GI disorders, chest pain, immune system disorders, infections, musculoskeletal, connective tissue disorders, nervous system disorders, psychiatric disorders, respiratory, thoracic disorders, skin and subcutaneous tissue disorder, and vascular disorders. All from the toxins in the flu shot. And when you look at the mercury in the flu shot, mercury in drinking water is that they measure it at 2 parts per billion. In tuna, it's 250 parts per billion. In the biggest, most toxic fish they could ever find, a white fish, had 500 parts per billion. One flu shot has 51,000 parts per billion of mercury. This is why 5 in a row contribute to Alzheimer's. It is a toxic dump on your body. So flu shots you've got to look at. And again, personal decision. You got to decide. There's way better science out there on things that you can do to prevent the flu. Hold on, no questions right now, so I want to bring it home for people. Hold on. No, I'll give you guys some good ideas. So antibiotics, the CDC has stopped making any new antibiotics. They refuse to make any more antibiotics because we are so resistant to bacteria right now that the CDC is freaked out. I was listening to a talk from a guy who wrote a book called Brain Maker. Anybody read Brain Maker?
Yeah, I've heard.
It's a great book. Anything that Dr. Perlmutter, any YouTube video you can find on him, he is fabulous. And he was being interviewed, and his whole thing is about gut health and how it affects the brain. And he said, well, most physicians now should know that antibiotics should never be prescribed. How many people have been prescribed an antibiotic in the last 2 years? Just out of curiosity. Look at that. You keep your hands up. It's crazy. So the antibiotics, what they do is they destroy the good and the bad bacteria in your gut. One of the first questions I ask you when I work with you nutritionally is how many rounds, are you guys cold? How many rounds of antibiotics have you been on? So antibiotics are no bueno. They are no good. So I can't, if there was one thing, flu shot, that's why I put these flu shots and antibiotics you guys stay off of. You guys know my passion for the gut. We're really finding that, most people walking in my doors right now, their gut is just totally shot. And many people have been on multiple antibiotics. So vitamins and supplements, what you need to know about those two is that there are natural vitamins and there are synthetic vitamins. So synthetic vitamins have fillers in them that are chemicals that are harmful to your body. Sorry, but anything at Costco is a synthetic vitamin. So I'm not a fan of the Costco supplements. The Kirkland brand is synthetic. You want food-based, plant-based supplements. So I can guarantee you everything that I put on my shelf is food-based. I've done the research. It doesn't have fillers in it. When you go to Whole Foods, if you're going to ask somebody for a good supplement, ask them, I want a food-based, plant-based supplement. Otherwise, you're just putting more toxins into your body. Okay, if you know this, give yourself a rating. I do believe I've been asked recently a lot on nutrition. Since my book came out, I've been emailed by people all over the world. I've been asked about, well, what are my thoughts on nutrition and immunity? And I believe if all the stuff I've researched on nutrition, all the stuff on vitamin C and linols, pauline and zinc, the best thing you can do is get adjusted. And the reason and I'll show you the reason for that in a second, but the studies that they have done is when they look at 3 different groups of people who have cancer and other serious diseases, people who are under regular chiropractic care, and people who are under regular chiropractic care for 5 years or longer. And they found that the longer you were under, this is no chiropractic care, if they were under chiropractic care, they had a 200 times percent stronger immune system. If they're under chiropractic care for 5 years or longer, it went up to 400% increase in your immunity. After you get adjusted, they've done research, they show that you increase your white blood cell count, your CD4 cell count, The T helper cells, cells that kill cancer, all of that goes up after you get adjusted. I had a friend who eats really well, works out, does all the other essentials. She was uber sick. She drove up from Morgan Hill on Tuesday to get adjusted. She's like, this has to be the last thing because I can't get my body well. And literally one adjustment, I called her the next morning, and she's like, yeah, I'm better. She sounded really hoarse. She was really stuffy. Next day, body started healing. So when my kids are sick, that's exactly what I do is they get on the table, we adjust them. It's a total immune boost. I cannot say enough good about that. And I'm not saying that because I'm a chiropractor. It's really in all the research that I've seen, I strongly feel that. Okay, last one, the last toxin that you're doing. It's called sitting and texting. So what you have to know is that sitting is, they're considering the new smoking. This was put out in Time magazine. And you're going to get this in your packet, but what you're going to see is that this was done off of multiple, I put research on here because nobody ever believes me. So it increases your risk of cancer, it increases your risk of heart disease, it increases your risk of obesity, it increases your risk of type 2 diabetes, it increases your risk for muscular problems, it interferes with your body's ability to break down fat, and it increases your risk for depression. Those were all scientific studies done on sitting for 2 to 3 hours or more a day. How many people sit 2 or 3 hours more a day? Yeah, we have become a very sedentary culture. Unless you're on Pinterest. There was another study done out of the University of Southern California that showed this texting, when your head comes forward, you increase the pressure on your neck so much that you slow down your digestion, you slow down oxygen to your lungs, and it's leading to depression because it shuts down serotonin production. So when your teen is sitting around doing this is a battle in my house too, but I just try to keep reminding them to lift the tablet up. Lift the phone up. Like, just do whatever you can. I had a teen in here the other day, just started with us this week, that is really, she's actually in college, really suffering with depression, and she had a whole series of car accidents, antibiotic use, texting, sitting at the computer, all the stuff that came together that has now put her in a depressive state. So now we got to go unwind all of this so that her body can start to heal. You guys know this that are patients of mine. If you're not a patient of mine, you'll hear me talk about this all the time on Facebook and on YouTube. Our bodies are designed perfectly. We are masterful. The name of the health game is just to take care of what you've already been given. You don't even really need to put a lot from the outside in. Just take care of what you already have. So when you look at the spine is supposed to have curves. So I don't have the spine here, but when you're texting and you're on that laptop, you're literally taking the curves and putting them in a reversed position. And it damages all the communication from the brain to the rest of your body. One of the most interesting studies I've seen on the spine and the nervous system was done on metastasis cancer, that in a mouse, when they cut the nerve supply to a tumor, the tumor started to metastasize. So you have to go, well, why would it, if you cut a nerve supply to a tumor, why would it metastasize? Well, the brain couldn't get information, didn't know that the tumor was there, didn't know to fight it. The body didn't know how to handle it because the nerve supply was cut off. So it's the same thing that happens in our spine. As we make these changes, you dampen down that nervous system, and the best way I can explain it is your repairability goes down. So your body doesn't heal as fast. I have a friend right now who her adrenals is so shot. She was she had surgery, and they're thinking about doing another surgery because she's not healing. The first thing I was like, we got to get your nervous system up. My chronic fatigue syndrome, that was the first thing my chiropractor said. We got to get your nervous system up so that your body can actually heal. So you guys know this already. I am obsessed on the curves in your spine. I will do everything I possibly can to bring these curves back. You guys that don't know the work we do, we take about 40 different measurements on the spine to see exactly where your curves have gone off, exactly where your body's is weakening your nervous system, and then we create a plan to fix it. This was a guy we recently done. Deanna, I should have put yours up there because yours is great too. He had what's a normal curve? Just so yay! Good job, guys. Okay, so normal curve is 45. This guy had a 5-degree curve. He was almost completely straight. And this was after a month we were working on him. He did home care, and we got him to 27 degrees. So almost to that completely normal. So these things are correctable when you know how to correct them, and that's what we do in here. Okay, so give yourself, if you sit and you text a lot, you get an F. If you are aware of what's going on, you give yourself an A. And if you know what your curve already looks like, if in your head you know what your curve looks like, you get an A+. Okay, so what do you do now? So on the back, there's something that says action steps. So the number one thing, what I want you to write down is the first thing is you create a plan. So in our office, what we do is we look at multiple systems and really work on creating a plan. So if you're already a patient in our office, if you don't know the steps that you're supposed to take and you're lost, come talk to me. Otherwise, everybody should know what steps they're supposed to be taking right now to repair their health. If you're not a patient of ours, I highly encourage you to come in. Let me do a write-up on or a whole workup on you. I'm really excited about the work we're doing right now. My quest and my goal is to do something that no other doctor's done before. Our appointments right now are a 2-visit process. I'm very interested in going all the way back to your childhood. I want to know if you were born by C-section. I want to know how many rounds of antibiotics you've had. I want to know how many car accidents you've been in. I want to know what kind of emotional, physical, chemical trauma that your body has brought you to this point of where you are today. We live in a culture where when you walk into the doctor's office, you present yourself and your symptoms, and they look at you today. But what they don't realize is that you are your whole history up to this point. So in our office, we realize that, and we're going to go all the way back and make sure that we're putting your health back together, and we're figuring out where your health got off. So I don't even know, if you went into a hospital and you got, a bunch of tests and you got hours of a doctor's time, I don't even know what that would cost. I had a patient in here recently this week that was in the hospital and ER for 2 days. 2 days in the hospital. How much do you think they charged her insurance company? $100,000. And how much do you think her cost was? $8,000 out of pocket was her copay for 2 days in the hospital. Isn't that crazy? For crisis care, just to get her, make sure she's alive. So our first 2 visits, what we do is it's $350 for those first 2 visits. At all of my events, if you're not a patient, what I do is I lower that down to $100. And it's not just for you, it's for your whole family. Because I'm not interested in, it doesn't make sense to me to get you over here in this 95% feeling well and leave the rest of your family over here in this 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3. It doesn't make sense. We want to really work with you as a group. So if you are already an existing patient and you haven't had your whole family, the people in your household have not gone through our process that we take you through, and you paid that $100, $150, $300 when you first came in, if you paid that, then your whole household's included in it. You need to make sure that your kids get an appointment, and there's no extra cost for that. So you've already covered that cost. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if they haven't been looked at, that's for you. If you want your kids looked at, if you want yourself looked at, you just got to fill this out and circle the time, because when we finish here in about 2 minutes, everybody's going to go rushing up there. Dana will be on the right, and you just give this to Dana, and Dana will give you a time and get your family on a good plan. So I'm adamant about giving people a plan. If you don't have a plan for health, you're going to succeed. You're going to fail. Okay, step 2, you got to detox. So how many people have read this book? Just so you know, my best friend was in getting her daughter adjusted the other day, and she hasn't even read my book, so don't be offended. You got to detox. There's lots of layers of detoxing. I think bare minimum, twice a year, you need to do something that we have here called the detox system. It's got glutathione in it, and it'll start to pull toxins out of your body. And so you got to at least make sure that you're doing that. If you need most people need some gut repair, and I love this product that we have here called Max GI. It'll get in there and it'll start to break down. Here's a gross fact: the old food that you've been carrying around, the processed food that's not digesting, it's on the inside of your walls of your intestine. That's why you feel bloated, or one of the reasons. So what Max GI does is it goes in there, it breaks that down, and starts to get it out of you. So these two are key. All of our products tonight are discounted. So make sure that when you go up front that you at least get yourself a detox system. And if you know you need other products, you can go there. The third step is to stay informed. So I want to give you a little bit of an insight on what my day looks like. How many people get my newsletters? Okay. So my day starts at 5 o'clock. I get up. I usually have my grass-fed buttered coffee. How many people are doing that? Love it. Okay. So I have my grass-fed buttered coffee. I have a thinking chair in my house. I sit in my thinking chair, and I sort of let my mind wake up, and then I start writing my newsletter. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that newsletter is written at 5:30 in the morning, and then I go to, I have 4 different Facebook pages. How many people are in the Resetter group? So if you're a patient of mine, you get put into the Resetter group, which has got recipes and things like that and sharing techniques. So I write a special note to you guys, and then my 3 other pages all get some information goes out. I go on to Instagram. Tonight we are periscoping. So if you don't know about Periscope, for the last hour and a half, this has been periscoped. It will go on YouTube tomorrow, and you can watch the whole thing. And I am just obsessed with trying to get this information out. So please share anything. If you haven't found me, share anything that you can with your community. And I'm gonna end with this. So how many people ever taken a road trip with their family? Okay, if you were in a road trip with your family from New York to LA, and there was a nail in your tire, when would you want to know about it? Right? Like New York, right? Okay, what if has anybody's bank ever overcharged them? Okay, if your bank was overcharging you $1 a day, $5 another day, $10 another day, and over time they were overcharging you, when would you want to know about that? Pretty soon. Okay, so if you were building disease in your body, when would you want to know about that? So one of the greatest lessons that I learned from Lanny, and you guys have heard me tell my Lanny story, was that Lanny had no idea that disease was building. And that was the bummer of the whole story. Because at 40 years old, she walked in for a routine mammogram, and they found that she had cancer throughout her whole body, everywhere but her brain. Within weeks, they had taken one breast off, they had her on chemo, they had her on radiation, and even with all of that, they gave her 3 months to live. And she had no idea that it was even building. So 2 weeks before she died, a friend of hers actually snapped this picture. It's me next to her bedside. 2 weeks before she died, we had so many conversations about health. But she said 2 really important things to me. One, she said, Mindy, if I had known to do different earlier, I would have done it different. I just didn't know. And then the second thing that she taught me was she said, we will never end cancer rates until people are willing to put in the work. And then she looked at me and she said, Mindy, you cannot do the work for them. But I can't do the work for you, but what I can do is show you a path. I can keep putting the information in front of you. You just have to engage in it. You have to keep going after it. I had this vision as I was running this morning that I want to save or help 1,000 families this year. If I could take 1,000 households and I could teach them what you guys just know and the principles we teach in here, and I did that over the next 30 years, let's say I practice for another 30 years, that would be close to 300,000 people. And if those 300,000 households each had 2 kids, you're looking at 600,000 people we could impact. So I am on a mission to change the way that people are doing health. The evidence is out there. We don't need any more evidence. We just need somebody to stand up and show us our steps. I love to talk. This is why we've run over time. So if you have a Bible study, if you have a women's group, if you have a corporation, if you have anywhere that you think that they would benefit from hearing this information, please let me know. Last year I went into 50 corporations telling the Lanny story. When the day she died, it was my pledge to her that I would keep her story moving forward. And I think about it every day, that if I don't stop telling her story, then her life is in vain. And so I don't want that. I want to prevent all the future Lannys. So as you go out tonight, when you go home, when you go tomorrow, wherever you go, please start these conversations with people, educate people, bring people to talks. Let me know where I can come talk, but don't go quiet. You got to be vocal, because that's the only way we're ever going to change future Lannys. So with that, if you want to come see me, fill this out. If you need product, let the guys know up front. I am going to have the doTERRA crew here and the deodorant Carrie over here. We'll stay for about 15 more minutes. I know it's late and you all have families to get home for. So, thank you.